Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and our virtual online interview series. And we have here today for the first time Jeff Stibbert, the CEO of the JDS Group of Companies. Welcome, and good morning to Canada. How are you?
Good morning, Johan. Thanks very much for featuring us here on Commodity TV. I really appreciate your time you're giving us here today.
Yeah, thank you very much also to your time, because I know you have a lot of things to do, as your company is really important and very prominent in building fantastic minds and to build companies up. Maybe you can give us a short overview on JDS, please.
Sure. Yeah, JDS Group of Companies is a private company founded and owned by myself, and it contains within it about 8 different sub-companies, from engineering design to construction, mine construction, to underground contracting, to aviation, to transportation, barging and trucking, and investments. And so a big part of our, and one other component, and that's the railway business. We have a big railway division that we carry in parallel to the mining business. And basically we cover all of the mining food chain from start to finish, including reclamation and closure, and advice to those that are looking to participate in that, both on a financial basis and operating the company. So we have quite a broad spread in the mining business, but most importantly, we focus on finding value on behalf of our customers, partnering with them, being aligned to find the best pathway to get the maximum value out of their projects. And the value in our sort of definition of it is obviously the commercial or capital value returned to the investors, but also the value of intellectual value in attracting the capital of people, the right people to do the right thing for the projects, because it's more to it than just the static construction of a mine. It's actually breathing life into it. So there's intellectual capital, and that's value to us that we have to find and deploy. And then the last and most important but hardest to get is the trust capital, which is a big part of the value chain, that if you don't do what you said you're going to do, you could lose the license to operate. And obviously that's a big impediment, slows projects and costs a lot of money if you don't. So our sort of promise to our customers is to find that value, find the pathway, and work towards achieving that throughout the development, operation, and closure of a mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can understand that you have a lot or a large responsibility in what you are doing. As you said, you will lose the license, but also the company can lose the license, and also losing a lot of money. So I found in your presentation a sentence. This is exactly what we are working also with, like, treat our clients and investors' money like it is our own. So do I understand that correct, that you are not only like, let's say, constructing and building those mines, you are also taking care of financing and maybe investing your own money?
Absolutely. And whether we sign on just to do a purely commercial job and a task for somebody, we treat it the same way. But typically, I like to say we design and build mines like we own them, because we do. And so we have a resource group in our company, a financial group that takes finances that we've earned on various projects and reinvests them into companies. So early stage companies, they're looking to get capital traction, track capital, and they don't have it necessarily to buy the equipment to get started. And also throughout the construction and taking a risk reward payment program for the project. So we're hooked to the bottom line and the ultimate outcome, and we share the pain and share the gain should companies go through that. So that's hugely important to us. It's the real deal. It's what's our basis. Since I started the company over 16 years ago, 2004. Actually, my math is bad. I guess it's more than that. But anyway, time flies.
Yes.
My experience early days with working for some of the big majors and some fabulous leaders in the industry, from BHP, Noranda, Shell, Canada, they taught me well. They taught us well in my first 20 years of my career, and really, I had the opportunity to invest in projects like the oil sands project in Fort McMurray and create a company in parallel with Shell that we benefited greatly by the rising price of oil. But we also shared the pain of what happens when projects get delayed or go slow. And the employees, I've noticed quickly, the people that were hooked to the bottom line, the way they reacted to the problems. They didn't run away when there was fires, and actually they had fires. We ran to find the solution. One, put it out, figure out what happened, and get back on track. And it wasn't a oh shucks, shrug your shoulders. What are we going to do next? We don't wait. In our company, there's no whoa. So cowboy term, there's no whoa to slowing us down here. We're all about giddy up and get at her and figure out what needs to be done. And that's really powerful. And it's powerful on behalf of our customers because, like I say, we're totally aligned with them. We want to see, actually, sometimes maybe even more so because we're more connected. Maybe some of the executive agents that work for these companies, and so sometimes that maybe causes a little bit of pressure because we're on the come to get things moving and get the cash flow working and to do it right in a reliable way that we're not caught out in an embarrassing way.
Yeah. Okay. Super. So, who would be, let's say, your normal clients? You just named already some companies, but who would be like typical clients or typical companies you would work with, and how would you define your special niche, meaning your USPs?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we work all over the world, with the exception of China. We don't work in China. We don't typically buy Chinese products. We're Canadian, so we're brought up in a certain way that we believe in, and we want to push that value base around the world. So South America, we've worked in I'll go by jurisdiction. We've worked in Chile, Peru, Colombia, Guyana, Guatemala, up into Middle America, Mexico, big in Mexico, United States, Alaska, Yukon Territory, Northwest Territories, Nunavut Territories, Western Canada, Eastern Canada, across into Europe. We've worked in Turkey, a couple of different mines there for Eldorado Gold. We're working in South Africa right now, in Botswana, and we've worked across Africa, Northern Africa, Eastern Africa, and Western Africa, and also done work in Sweden and Russia. So really, we really don't discriminate regionally, with the exception of China. One area that we just don't play well, I guess. We just don't flange up well with that, the way they do business, and no disrespect to what they're doing. They have a way, and it doesn't match up with us. As far as the customers go, we've got some great customers like Lucara Diamonds there in Botswana. We have a fabulous customer in New Gold out in Eastern Canada that we're working for here in the West at their new Afton mine, underground block caving mine. We work with Teck. We work Torex Gold in Mexico. So we've got some big names. Anglo American, we built the Gauchoquay diamond mine in Northwest Territories for them some 5 years ago. Mountain Province Diamonds. So diamond space, we're very, very strong, in particular in Northern Canada. We know diamonds in the Arctic, and that's where actually I was able to benefit from my early career days of building Canada's first diamond mine, the Ekati diamond mine, from 1994 to 1998, and in a very, very successful project that I, as a BHP employee, was able to design, build, permit, and operate that mine and pay it off in about a year and a half. So you get a little bit of wind in your sails from there, and I was able to do a similar thing down in Fort McMurray in the big oil sands projects with Shell. So we're very experienced on big projects. We like small projects, challenging projects. We like them in the highest places, the lowest places, the hottest places, the coldest places. We look for those challenges, and we think we're pretty damn good at figuring out the best path forward and really delivering. Down in Guatemala, we were working, building the silver mine there early days, and going through rioting and chaos. And one of our fellows got a bullet in his back but we kept pushing forward, and we got the work done. And again, we weren't part of the chaos. We're there to do a job and stay focused and keep ourselves out of the political fray. So we're comfortable and work in all areas, and particularly chaotic areas like South and Middle America, because those people need these industries. They need the mines built. They need the cash flow. They need the jobs, the currency, and they need the whole prosperity. So we like going down there and kind of pushing through the darkness and coming out on top.
Fantastic. So I would say what sets you really apart is like you get the job done.
Yeah. We like to make shit happen and I like to say we have a company that's it's a kick-ass company with kick-ass people that just get shit done.
Okay, super. Perfect. I saw also in your presentation that you have worked or still work probably for Victoria Gold Corp, where I'm a shareholder and I know John McConnell extremely well. And I like the project a lot. So maybe can you give us a little bit of a bit more insight into it, how this worked? I mean, this is a real big mine, and I have the feeling that probably maybe one or two more mines could be developed on this ground. And I see this as a really long-term successful gold producer.
And I'd agree with everything you just said. So first of all, I'd like to say that John McConnell, fantastic mining man, and his wife Tara. John, like myself, spent a lot of time in Northern Canada and the Northwest Territories, the high Arctic, and him in the diamond space as well, like myself in the early days. So he was a great guy, or is a great guy, I should say, to work with. His family completely, they're Northerners, and they get it. They get the practicality and what's required to build a mine, and some of the leveraging of some of the decisions. You don't have all the information. So for us to work for him was a pure pleasure. Sometimes it's hard to work for some of the bigger companies because they got a lot of systems and they got a lot of checks and a lot of bureaucracy, almost like working for the government. And no disrespect to them, I guess that's what you have to do when you're so big. You got to have these checks in there. So working for John and the Victoria Gold Group was fantastic. Totally aligned with them, and they gave us a pretty strict mandate on time and budget and safety and quality. So we had to live up to those things, but we had to do it in a very dynamic way, and we were able to achieve that on behalf of John because of the way he managed us with really getting out of the way, giving us the metrics and getting out of the way and mandating us to deliver. And we had a really good young team of individuals, both male and female, Northerners, some folks that lived in the Yukon, and very senior people in our company that really adapted and were able to integrate with the local communities because we've lived and worked there for the last 15 or so years. So we're able to leverage those relationships. So it's relationships. So we were able to build the mine for John quite successfully. Obviously, they're commissioning the mine and moving up the curve on gold production, and those things always take time. There's a ramp up curve, and there's always little bits and pieces that you have to continuously dig into fixing. And what nature always deals you a different card than what you ultimately have planned, but you just deal with it. And we're expanding John's infrastructure there, including the truck shop and hopefully expanding the production for him as well. So that's going well, and again, it'll continue to grow well, and they'll continue to grow. And I know John's very, very proactive, and he's got his fingers in a lot of things, and maybe even into the wine business. And so he's got a lot of cards up his sleeve there. And one thing, again, I think would make John successful, his relationship in the North, both in terms of with the political class and the Sandy Silver, the premier of the Northwest Territories, and the First Nation communities there. They're real solid people, and they go with them to make things move forward. And we're just so happy to be a part of that.
Super. Perfect. Yeah, you were talking already about First Nations, about local communities. So overall set in your business, what is your observation concerning ESG, local communities, stuff like this, let's say environmental stuff? Where do you see new trends? Where do you see changes coming up in the future?
Okay, well, just to give you a bit more background on myself personally. So I've been in the mining business since I was 18 years old. I grew up in Vancouver here. Don't think just because I'm wearing a suit here today and I'm in Vancouver, that's not me. I spent most of my career living in Northern Canada. My wife and I and my sons, we've lived in 13 communities across Northern Canada. When we went to work at the mines and I got transferred, we moved as a family, and we became part of the community. And that's really what our model is here. We're working all over in different regions. We send our people to become part of the community, including myself, and I visit each one of these places and try to create a relationship with everybody. Obviously, in the Northern Canada, a big proportion of the citizens are First Nations. So we, as a mining business, not just us, but mining in Canada generally, have always worked closely with First Nations, and we've worked closely with their communities, and we are a part of those communities. So we work our ass off to keep those people a part of our business because we need them to be a player, not just as an employee or a contractor, but to benefit with us in building better communities. And that's having hope and purpose and strong minds, strong bodies, and really, most importantly, strong souls. Now, so today, the comments that we hear in the news and things like that, the politicians, they're making big platitudes, but they're not really delivering, and it's our job to deliver. And I think the mining business, regardless of Aboriginal or any other community, it really goes first. We make something out of nothing, and everything in the mine or mining community has to come from somewhere else. We got to broker a lot of businesses to come and join us and start digging those holes. So when people start talking about ESG and we should do things for for people in general. We get it, but we've been doing it forever. So environmental, social, and governance, the ESG, really used to be just corporate social responsibility, just rebranded. Mm-hmm. And before that, it used to be health, safety, environment, security, and dealing with the local communities. Those have all been key points of developing business. And I can point to the building of the diamond mines in the Arctic. When before we started the Ekati diamond mine, there was one post-secondary graduate from the Aboriginal communities that were made up the region around the mine. Once the mine got into operation, within 5 years, there was 26 post-secondary graduates from the Aboriginal communities around the mine. What does that tell you? Well, they had one purpose. They had the money, the means, the interest, and most importantly, the leadership to go into these fields because it made sense. And mentorship, and those are the things that's the mines have been doing. So for me, when people say ESG, I get it. There's a new sort of thing. It's almost like ISO or any of these other new programs. It's a language. And my job in my company is to show people, okay, you want this stuff and you use that language. My business is to deliver. My business is to put iron in their words. So when they say it, we'll do it. And we'll show you how to get there. And a lot of people think that these words are maybe a burden or a challenge. There's a huge benefit to doing this. Things start to work better, smoother. We have a level playing field of communication. So we can point to our customers how we can get there based on our experience. And we talked earlier before the show, capital that's required to build a mine or anything healthy is financial, intellectual, and trust. Those three things are like a three-legged stool. You can't have two out of three. You need all three. And that trust capital can roughly be rounded up in that ESG component. But in order to have it, you've actually had to have done it before, because it's not good enough just to say what you stand for. It needs to be where you're going and how are you getting there. And that's what our job is, to be those leaders to say, we've done this before and maybe we can do it better, which typically we can because we can learn from our mistakes, and we'll show you how to get there. So our company has changed quite a bit in recent because of the ESG emphasis, both in terms of here in Canada and our governments making sort of platitudes, but also activist investors that are trying to obviously reduce carbon emissions in the planet. Regardless of what the politic is behind that, it's always good to reduce emissions. It's always good because it directly correlates with energy, to reduce energy, because energy is about 30% of the cost of the mining business. So it makes sense. So we can use the word ESG, but really we're trying to be efficient. We're constantly on the hunt to find value, and energy efficiency is one. Obviously emissions shake out of that. Building a better mine design that we don't have to clean up so much at the end because it costs a lot of money and makes us look really bad. It's hard to get a license to operate if you make a mess in somebody's backyard or front yard. And in most people's case, again, Northern Canada, north of our 60th parallel, the Arctic typically, that's more than half of our country up there. It's some people's front yard. So we don't look at it as a backyard or an afterthought. We look at it as going in and building a better place for people to get connected with the rest of the world, because the view up there is pretty good looking down. It's pretty damn good. So, but they need our help. They need our intellectual capital or financial capital, but they're not going to welcome us in if we're not trusted partners, both at the community level and obviously at the economic business level. So that's the change, and we're all over it. We're signed up to the cause, and as you know, our relationship here today is new, and it was brought to us by Kayla Gattens, the lady that's here in the room today, and quite progressive, and she graciously decided to join us and really help me become better at getting our message out and convincing our clients that we can really add value on those three letters.
Fantastic. Do you think, looking at, let's say, worldwide permitting, do you think that this will further slow down big mining projects because everything takes longer due to the facts what we have just discussed the last 5 minutes? I'm referring a little bit, let's say, for example, for copper. We had like 2 weeks ago an interesting interview with Ivan Glasenberg here in Switzerland from Glencore. And it was very interesting to see. He said, like, 2040, they think 60 million tons of copper will be the worldwide market. Yeah. And then he said, but he has no idea from where this should come from. So is that something also with, let's say, the whole ESG, the whole things we have discussed, would this be something slowing down permitting again, despite, let's say, this really decreasing grades in the ore, that we will get maybe a little bit in trouble in the future here with commodity markets to the positive side because prices will rise much, much higher?
Yeah, no, and I think you nailed it. Yeah, there's going to be a huge demand for copper, and that's great. So that means we need to find it and figure out how to dig it out and get it to market. So that's great for our mining business. I love this. It's a great challenge. The ESG part of it, I think, is going to go a long way. It's going to be the antithesis of taking longer. It's going to pre-program people to know what they need to do to get a project to yes. So and I think that's always critical, and it's going to kind of level the wording playing field. So we know what those things mean, environmental. What are the standards that we have to comply with? So on an international basis to get international investment. And that's a good thing. What I think is that we just need to have people that are proactively engaging in those solutions. So we talked earlier, again, the copper business in BC, British Columbia here in Canada is copper. We have some big copper operations here, both Teck and Taseko. And they've long-term legacy operations. So there's more of those type of deposits, lower grade deposits that were started in the late 60s and 70s here in Canada that maybe need to be mined differently, not just massive open pit unit mining equations that we're trying to bring the cost per ton down, but creates maybe large land disturbances to bulk underground mining and to go into block caving methods. And you'll start to see that, I think, here in our area where we have these 0.4, 0.5% copper deposits. And that's where the copper is going to come from in British Columbia, but it's going to come from a different mining method that gets better acceptance in the communities. If you're going to build a mine right next door to somebody's town, and a good example is the New Afton mine just outside of Kamloops, British Columbia. It's like 5 minutes outside of the town, right on the highway. It was an open pit mine early days in the 70s, and now it's a big block cave mine underground, and they're pulling north of 17,000 tons a day out of there from underground, and you wouldn't even know it. It's all happening in block caving, and they're very, very successful. And I think that's where the business is going. So as engineers, which us mining engineers sometimes we don't get the best rap, but we need to start working on these block caving, and we also need to look at the efficiencies of the equipment that we're using to do that, and whether it's the electrification, which everybody's pushing for, obviously. And to reduce emissions, but we've got to be careful that we know where the energy is coming from and the efficiency of those electrification is working. The safety of those mines with respect to the geotechnical parameters and the way we evaluate it. We need the technology to monitor these things. Most importantly, though, we need the intelligence of the people coming out that this is what our job is. It's not just to keep doing what we did yesterday, day in, day out. It's to keep focusing on improving our push into these dark areas. I think underground block caving is one of the big things that are going to emerge in the copper space. I look at somebody like Foran Mining that's out there in Saskatchewan, northern Saskatchewan, that's recently found a pretty decent project out there. And the people that are behind it, if you read their presentation, right off the bat, they're talking about ESG and how they're going to approach the development of the asset. And I think that's already moving the dialogue faster with respect to the First Nations, with respect to the government regulators. It's put people back a bit on their heels because it's like, wow, these guys are really bold in what they're saying. They're going to do this right from the start. I think that's critical. If you want it, state it, get at it. And I'm happy to be helpful and moving that forward on their behalf and with them. And so I like it. I like what they're saying, because that's what we were trained in right from the beginning. And at least my experience in Canada, working for some of the big majors like Noranda and BHP, they've demanded that we do things correctly. So okay. I'm not afraid of it. Put it that way. I like it.
Super. Perfect. Last question. How do you see the development of technology for the, let's say, mid to long-term future, meaning reducing CO2 emissions, like electrification of the fleet? You just spoke already about it, but also like with hydrogen trucks, for example, things like this. Where do you see the trends going?
Well, I do see... I also, part of our business is the oil business. Again, I worked in the oil sands, which is probably the nastiest thing, that poster boy for not, producing oil from, but it's actually quite efficient and quite focused on technology, and it's very reliable source of energy. And we can constantly do better. So there's a lot of that. We're not going to get off oil anytime soon. Our 100 million barrels a day, it's just not going away to zero real quick. So what we've got to focus on is making that oil cleaner. So if it's the emissions that we're going to work on, let's still produce the stuff, but let's use technology to make it cleaner and maybe sequester some of the CO2 that comes off of it. Our business, and again, another branch of our business is the energy side, and we're invested heavily into oil technology and taking the heavy oil, the 4 million barrels of the 100 million barrels used a day that goes out to sea on bunker fuel and ships, and take out the pollutants out of that heavy oil. So the bottom of the barrel, which contains a lot of sulfur, a lot of lead, a lot of molybdenum and vanadium, et cetera, that used to get taken out to the sea to be burnt and disposed of because it had to go somewhere. The laws have changed and they can't do that. We've created a business to take the nasties out of that heavy oil with our what we call an Enlighten Innovations technology and a Clean Seas product that we produce. And we take the nasty materials out of that heavy oil. And now we're able to take that and give it to the shipping business and give them low priced, high heat value, low polluting product. And just to give you a stat, and it's tough to get your head around this one, but 15 of the world's largest ships emit more pollutants, NOx and SOx, than all of the light vehicles in the world. 15 big ships traveling back and forth in the sea. And if you figure there's about 20,000 of them out there every day, that's a lot of pollution. Where would you want to put your energy? So we look at them, the balance sheet, and we go, hey, that's the big macro number that we should focus on, and that's what we're focused on. So we're invested in that technology. Now, the good thing that came out of this technology, because we're in it, we're focused as engineers, and we want to get oil out. Well, we discovered that our system actually works as a battery as well. And our technology using molten sodium and grabbing out the sulfur and creating sodium sulfide, adding electricity and pulling it through a sodium silicon wafer, separates the sodium from the sulfur. Well, when you take the power off, the sodium wants to go back to the sulfur and discharges. And we just discovered that we have one of the most efficient flow batteries. And when I talk about flow batteries, it's a battery that'll store a city's worth of power for days, as opposed to a bunch of little cells in a Tesla. And Tesla's not going to do it. This is going to work, and for a big volume of storage. So when we look at those, people talk about renewables, whether it's wind or solar or biomass or hydroelectricity. Well, hydroelectricity has a nice big dam to store most of its energy, but sometimes that dam needs to spill over because it's full. We can now capture that energy in our flow battery technology that we have, and discharge it as required. So we think we've got some ideas, and we know we do. We've got a lot of interested people, and we're tested it. We've pilot tested, and we're currently building right now our demonstration plant in northern Alberta. So as oil mining energy guys that just get the big picture of the food chain, we're working hard to do that. And we've invested over $100 million to date in the last 5 years on our project, and we're building these things out, and that's our contribution. It's we're obviously capitalists trying to make some dough on this, but we think we can make a big difference in the energy initiatives and platitudes that people have put out there. So we're definitely with the people that want to make things better. We do too. We want to reduce energy usage, we want to reduce energy costs, and we want to reduce energy pollutants or negative effects. And I think we're on track to do that. That's how we're doing it ourselves. So by nature of your question, we believe that we can do some things. We're just also not naive that we're going to get off oil completely anytime soon. It's still a very important part of our world. So we need to do it better. And that's what our business is. We're not going to stop doing stuff. We don't stand still. We keep our feet moving, and we focus on the direction, not just the platitude.
Fantastic. That was a great final sentence. Jeff, thank you very much. That was now half an hour. Wow. I read a lot, but I learned a lot. Thank you very much for this. And wish you well, of course. And please keep it going, because I think you guys are really on the right path.
Well, I much appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing the more shows out of you there. This is very, very good for us. And again, I love the use of the technology and spreading the word out there. So thanks for your time.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jeff Stippert, the CEO of JDS Group of Companies. And you heard it, a real mind builder, but also an investor, and really taking care ESG, social, environmental, technology. The company has really everything what is really needed in this, call it mining world, and also for the future. And reduce emissions is one of the key things here, definitely. And I think the company is really on the top here. And just check it out. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.